Okay, so let's jump into a few other guys, Brian. The first guy that I want to bring up.
It's going to be some defensive line talk
Yes,
now.
3 of them in a row. I think the one that's on everybody's mind right now is Isiah Foskey. He clearly has a decision to make. I'm sure that he is hearing it from both sides at this point. Have you heard anything? And if so, or if not, what do you think he should do at this point?
He's probably the most on the fence guy from what I've been told. He is really torn on staying or going. I think the thing that's going to help Notre Dame in this instance is the retention of the current staff. If they did not keep Marcus Freeman and Mike Elston, I was told there's no chance Foskey comes back. Now, it wasn't said in a manner like, I'm leaving if you don't keep Marcus Freeman.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was just like, if I'm already on the fence anyway, and he's been on the fence for a month,
right.
If I'm on the fence anyway, I'm definitely not going to stay with a new staff.
Right.
Right. I mean, that was it. So there was no like ultimatum given to Jack Swarbrick, like I'm going pro. I think, okay, well, have fun, go pro. You know, I mean, we're not going to make our decision for 1 year of you. It was not that kind of conversation. This is just kind of where Isiah has been with the whole thing, from what I'm told. And so there's some, you know, again, on the fence there. I think the thing that's going to help Notre Dame now, first of all, I'm gonna give intel, then we'll talk about what we think he should do. And this is going to kind of segue together. The thing that's coming out about Foskey's draft stock is this is an absolutely loaded year for edge rushers. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, Zach Harrison potentially for Ohio State. Now, Zach Harrison
announced today he's coming out.
Well, yesterday. He announced that yesterday. Yeah.
I just saw it today. Yeah.
Yeah. And Drake Jackson potentially could come out from USC. There's just what's the kid's name from Texas A&M, DeMarvin Leal. It's a really loaded draft class. And there's a lot of guys that just have more years of experience and production than Isiah Foskey. Isiah Foskey's been kind of a 1 year guy.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, it kind of leads to the notion that there's a lot of people that would like to see him come back. Now, of course, let me rephrase that. There's some teams that are draft late first, early second that would like for him to come, maybe come out, because then they may be able to sneak him. But I think if he wants to be a top 15 NFL draft pick, which there's a lot of people that think he can be that, he has to come back to do that. He's not going to be able to accomplish that. He's not going to be able to accomplish that this year because of just how loaded it is. I mean, if you look at
the volume,
if you look at Mel Kiper's big board, for example, now again, Mel Kiper's not the NFL scouts, right? So I'm just making a point.
It's just an example, yeah.
11 of his, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his top 13 players on his big board are defensive ends.
And Foskey is not one of them.
Foskey is not one of them. No. Now, that doesn't mean that Foskey won't be a top pick, because again, this is Mel Kiper. This isn't NFL teams. But when you look at the edge players coming out, I mean, it's a loaded draft class. And I just it's going to be hard to see him come. I mean, you're talking about Myjai Sanders is down to like on Mel Kiper's board, down to like 8th on the draft on the senior edge players for, I mean, it's a loaded draft class. Now, again, when I say ends, I should probably say edge players, because that's how the draft looks at it. So like David Ajabo is considered an edge player, not an end, because he's an outside linebacker in a 3-4 kind of thing. Well, that's what some people are going to view Isiah Foskey as well. Some people view him as an end. The point is there's a lot of edge players. Now he has, and so by example, Mel Kiper has Isiah Foskey listed as an outside linebacker. He's got him as the number 6 outside linebacker in this draft class. That's not high enough and here's the thing about Isiah. He's a true junior.
Correct.
So this isn't like him deciding to come back as a 5th-year senior. So I think he should come back for 2 reasons. One, his game still needs work. He still needs to advance his pass. He dominated this year because he's just way better than the people he matches up against, right? He's just really talented. His repertoire needs work. He needs to nuance his moves. He needs to work on the spin move. He needs to work on his double inside move. He needs to work on his hands. Now, it got better as the year went on. His hand play got better as the year went on, but so many times he just either had a speed rush, or he would just kind of do that inside arm, just bull a guy back and then come off and make a tackle or a sack. I mean, which is phenomenal. But he needs a lot of work. Now, he also got a lot better at the end of the year in run defense, a lot better, but that's another part of his game that needs some work. So his game needs to improve. This isn't just like
overall.
Like if Kyron wanted to come back to improve his stock, he could, but I don't know if he would, but his game doesn't really need a lot of work. Kyle Hamilton's game doesn't really need any work. Isaiah's game needs work. And that's the scary thing is if he comes back and he really dedicates himself to continue working on his craft, he's got a chance to be a top 10 pick. Because all the hype that we're hearing about Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo and all that kind of stuff, I have no doubt that Isiah Foskey can be every bit of that next season.
Yeah,
because the numbers are already there. And then next year, he's going to get some money games to have a chance to go prove himself. So he's a guy that I think should come back. Will he come back? Right now, he's on the fence, in my opinion.
I think it'll be interesting to see what because I'm sure he's going to submit his name, to be evaluated by the NFL. Be interested to see what he gets back. If he gets a mid-round grade, do you think he'll get a mid-round grade? Like,
I think he'll get a second-round grade.
A second-round grade. But yeah, his potential is top half of the first round. And that's a big, big financial difference than the second round. It just is. And you're right. Top to bottom, his grade needs to be. It's not like he needs to just work on this one finesse move.
Right.
You can do that in camp at the NFL, right? I mean, that's not where he's at. Now, could he be very successful and grow and learn while in the NFL? Sure he could. But if you're trying to
first 5-year contract, because look, here's the deal. Yeah,
exactly.
If he's as good as people think, the NFL team's going to secure that 5th-year option if he's in the first round.
Right.
And if he's a second-round pick, he only has to be there for 4, and he'll get another deal. But that first 4 years is not, and it's not guaranteed you're going to be successful enough to get to your second contract.
And injuries and everything else.
So he's in a situation where it's like a lot of these guys, like so Kyron Williams, I just don't see him improving his stock a lot. When you're into that situation, go now. Don't risk.
Exactly.
There's too much at stake.
Exactly.
Kyle Hamilton can go from 6 to 1, maybe. Like there's no more room to go up there.
And
with
he's
Jared
in a situation.
Patterson,
He's in a situation. Kyle Hamilton's in a situation where, depending on where he goes 1 to 5, just depends on need of the team. Needs of teams and all that different stuff.
Because the point is, there's nowhere to go with his draft stock.
Right, exactly.
With Jarrett Patterson and Isiah Foskey, and the next guy we're going to talk about, Jason Adamiola, I think there's room for big jumps from where they are right now. And I think the two defensive linemen, and I start finishing up on Isiah, he needs another year. The production doesn't necessarily need a big jump, but the game needs there's room for the game to get better. And next year's edge class will be good. Will Anderson's going to be coming out next year for Alabama. He can't come out this year. He's just a true sophomore. But I look at next year's board and I'm like, I don't know if there's going to be 2 better edge players in the country next year than Will Anderson and Isiah Foskey.
Right.
Now, if there's 2 great edge players, they can both go top 5.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing: it's a pass driven league. That also applies for teams looking for pass rushers. So. Because he's a true junior, I think he should come back. I think he needs to come back. Will he come back? I don't know. Jason.